Have you ever heard of a graveyard where the earth itself seems to bleed? Not a trick of the light, not a rusty stain from old stone, but a deep, crimson liquid seeping from the ground, almost like the graves are alive. Why would a resting place, meant for peace, ooze something that looks so much like human blood? Picture yourself standing beneath moss-draped oak trees in a quiet corner of the American South. The air is heavy, damp, and still. Spanish moss hangs down like ghostly curtains, swaying with every small breath of wind. Beneath your feet, cracked gravestones lean into the soil, worn thin by 100 years of rain and sorrow. And there, among them, are the stains. Dark red streaks crawling down headstones, sticky patches that bubble from the earth itself. The first time locals saw it, they thought it was blood. And in truth, it looked exactly that way. But is it truly the dead crying out, or is there something else at work beneath the soil? This graveyard isn't new. It was laid down in the 1800s when families settled the region and buried their kin under handmade stones. Back then, a cemetery was more than a field of graves. It was a gathering place, a reminder of who you came from and where you were going. People picnicked under the trees, told stories on warm evenings, and taught their children to respect those resting beneath. But here, things took a darker turn. Generations whispered of graves that wept red. Some said it began after a fever swept through the town, killing whole families within weeks. The ground could not rest, they believed, because it was filled with pain. Imagine being a child, wandering the edges of the graveyard, and watching a crimson stain creep down a tombstone like tears. Would you run home trembling? Or would you lean closer, try and understand? Science, of course, has its explanations. Southern soil is thick with iron. When water rises up through graves and mixes with stone, it can leave rusty, blood-colored streaks. Some headstones were carved from porous limestone, a stone that breathes water like a sponge. Over years, that water leaches out, rusty and red, marking the stone with eerie streams. Logical, yes, but when you stand there, staring at what looks so much like veins opening in the earth, logic feels small. And here's where the story deepens. Because no matter what scientists say, people have witnessed more than stains. There are accounts of puddles forming overnight, thick and red as if freshly spilled. Caretakers claim they've wiped the stones clean, only to return the next morning to find them dripping again. What do you make of that? Is it possible that the land remembers, that sorrow seeps out to the ground like old wounds refusing to heal? Close your eyes for a moment. Listen to the sounds around you. The buzz of cicadas, the low creak of branches, the far-off cry of a mourning dove. And then imagine the faint drip, drip, drip of something sliding down cold stone. You touch it, half afraid, and it stains your fingers crimson. You rub, but the color won't leave. How many times could you witness that before you start to wonder if the dead really do bleed? The cemetery itself has become something of a legend. Families warn their children not to play there after dark. Teenagers dare each other to spend a night, lying on the grass among the red-stained graves. Some come back laughing, others pale and silent, unwilling to speak of what they saw. Old-timers nod knowingly, saying the land is restless, cursed by secrets buried with its people. Could it be guilt? Could it be anger? Or perhaps sorrow, spilling out in the only way it can? When you walk past the older stones, you notice names carved in shaky letters. Infants who live for only days. Entire families taken in the span of a single year. You feel a weight pressing down, heavier than the air, heavier than the heat. These were lives cut short, love lost in silence, stories never finished. Is it so strange, then, to imagine that the ground itself would cry out in grief? Not every visitor is frightened. Some say the red stains are holy, a sign that the buried souls are still near, still reaching out to their descendants. They touch the crimson marks with reverence, whispering prayers, asking for guidance. For them, the bleeding graves are not horror, but proof that death is not the end. Others see it differently, a warning to respect the dead, to tread carefully among the stones, for this ground belongs to them. And yet, there is always that tension between science and story. Iron-rich soil, minerals, weathering stone, an answer that feels too neat, too distant from the raw experience of standing in front of a grave that drips red. The mind clings to logic, but the heart tells another tale. Which do you believe? Do you accept the comfort of explanation, or do you trust the shiver that runs down your spine when you see it for yourself? Imagine walking away from the cemetery as the sun sets. The sky turns amber and violet. Shadows stretch across the graves and the air grows cooler. You glance back one last time, and the red stains seem to glow darker, richer, as if alive in the fading light. The sight follows you, stays with you. You dream of it that night, and when you wake, you cannot shake the thought, what if the dead are not silent? What if they have found a way to bleed through the soil, to remind us that their stories are not yet told? In the end, maybe the bleeding cemetery is less about horror and more about memory, a reminder that grief seeps into land itself, that time doesn't erase sorrow, it only buries it shallow. And sometimes when the ground is heavy with secrets, it leaks them back out, drop by crimson drop. So, the next time you pass by a quiet southern graveyard, look closely, watch the stones. And if you see a red stain trickling down, ask yourself, is it just the earth or is it the dead still trying to speak? If you enjoyed this journey into America's most haunting stories, don't forget to like this video, share your thoughts and comments, and subscribe for more forgotten tales. Who knows, your town might be hiding a story just like this one,